Hello everyone, my name is Brennan Marr, and that noise you're hearing is my ventilator. And welcome to Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. Today, I would like to talk about why David Benioff and D.B. Weiss should make their Star Wars movies. Let's preface this by saying Benioff and Weiss are the showrunners of Game of Thrones, which, as far as I'm concerned, has been, whether you watch it or not, the most successful show. One of the most successful shows of all time, but I believe it is the most successful show in terms of the most talked about show, at least in recent years. The showrunners of Game of Thrones, Benioff and Weiss, it was announced a couple of months ago that they would be doing some Star Wars films. In fact, a Star Wars trilogy. With Season 8 of Game of Thrones getting a mixed reception, there have been some fans wondering if it's a good idea to have these two gentlemen handle Star Wars movies when they have disappointed a good number of Game of Thrones fans. I am here to tell you that I believe they should be allowed to do their Star Wars movies, regardless of the attitudes of Game of Thrones fans. Whether you watch Game of Thrones or not, you probably are aware of how successful the show is. And not just successful in terms of being watched a lot, but successful in being praised as some of the best television in terms of writing, acting, directing, storytelling that there has been in recent years. The show has won or been nominated for a plethora of Emmy Awards, and I think it is clear to say that regardless of what people thought of Season 8, the other 7 seasons have satisfied the viewers. I think it would be terribly unwise and unfair to say, oh, these two guys don't know storytelling, don't know how to make a good product, just because of 1 season out of 8 seasons. So I think that what they have done up to this point should be reason enough why they should do a Star Wars film or Star Wars trilogy. So let's talk about some of the specifics here. Now, I've been researching official statements from the bigwigs at Disney and Lucasfilm. Now, you may be aware that because Solo failed at the box office, and that is not hyperbole, it did actually fail to recoup its costs. Disney and Lucasfilm have said that they're going to take a break. Here is what Lucasfilm President Kathleen Genevieve said in an interview with Entertainment Weekly. Quote, "We're going to take a hiatus for a couple of years," close quote. And she then says that they're going to take their time to kind of look at their future plan. And she does claim that they're thinking about what the next decade of Star Wars is going to be. Now, let me just detour for a moment. We have the release dates for the Benioff and Weiss Star Wars movies. December of 2022, December of 2024, and December of 2026. So we have the release dates, and we know that Benioff and Weiss are handling those three films. Now, the Entertainment Weekly folks asked Kathleen Kennedy when these stories will take place. Because as you know, Star Wars has such a wide scope that Entertainment Weekly asked Kathleen Kennedy, are these movies going to be set long before the other movies? Yeah. An even longer time ago in a galaxy far, far away, if you like. Kathleen Kennedy said this, quote, "Yes, absolutely. I think that's absolutely on the horizon. We're looking at whether we can move massively in one direction or the other. It's still Star Wars, and holding on to the DNA of what George created is still very important to us." And then she says, "I think this is a huge opportunity to step into the galaxy in a little bit different part of the timeline." Ah, all right. Now, you may be aware that there are a good number of fans who would like to see what they call Knights of the Old Republic. Those are video games. Disney and Lucasfilm, I do not believe, will adapt those non-canon video games into films. But when people say that, I think they're just referring to they would like to see the events of thousands of years prior. Lots of Jedi, lots of Sith, empires at war. Now, as far as I'm concerned, if that is the story that they want to tell, Benioff and Weiss are perfect. Empires battling it out, big armies of Jedi and Sith, politics, Machiavellian intrigue, that's right up their alley. Now, here's where things get interesting. According to StarWars.com, Benioff and Weiss are going to produce and write these new movies. Notice, I did not say direct. Because at the moment, that is not confirmed. Now, I'm not really big on Game of Thrones, so I looked up how much. Let me rephrase that. I'm not like a nut about it. I know very little of it. I don't mean that I don't like it. I just don't know very much about it. So I looked it up. So Benioff and Weiss have directed 3 episodes of Game of Thrones. But they have written 45 episodes, which is more than half of all the episodes. So, it does not seem that they will be directing. Now, this is where things get a little bit confusing. Rian Johnson, the director and writer of The Last Jedi, is also supposedly working on a trilogy of Star Wars films. And this is written on StarWars.com that Rian Johnson is indeed working on his own trilogy. Now, StarWars.com claims that Rian Johnson's movies are separate from Benioff and Weiss's movies. That the two trilogies are different. Now, Kathleen Kennedy said this, quote, "They're working very closely with Rian," close quote. Okay, now what does that mean? Does it mean that Rian Johnson's trilogy will be somehow connected to Benioff and Weiss's trilogy? And that they're working closely with Rian so that they're on the same page? Metaphorically speaking. Or does it mean that Rian Johnson will be the director and Benioff and Weiss will produce and write? Now, according to StarWars.com, those trilogies are separate. But I'm going to propose to you, what if they end up, all three of these men work together? Rian Johnson directs, Benioff and Weiss write and produce. Now, I personally like that idea. And yet again, just like the disappointment some fans feel with season 8 of Game of Thrones, some fans felt with The Last Jedi, though I think on both accounts, Game of Thrones and The Last Jedi, the majority liked it. So if Rian Johnson directs the Benioff and Weiss Star Wars movies, you could bet your bottom dollar that there's going to be lots of complaining on the internet. But I think we need to make it very clear nowadays, anytime there's an announcement, especially in the nerd movie world, Twitter and other social media pages are going to light up with negativity and with trolls. That is a given. Now, for those fans who legitimately and very, are not trolling, but clearly don't feel that Benioff and Weiss should do Star Wars, I disagree, but I think that those are the fans that are a little bit more level-headed. If studios start listening to what everybody starts whining about on the internet, and I'm talking about trolls here, they start listening to trolls, then they have no integrity and they should not be in positions of power in the film industry if they are listening and doing things differently because of trolls on the internet. This happened recently, you may be aware, with Sonic the Hedgehog. Because people complained online, the visual effects people completely redid Sonic. I think this shows appallingly bad judgment on the part of the people in charge of the movie. That they were willing to change their artistic vision because people were complaining. That's a discussion for another time, but I do not believe that Disney and Lucasfilm should change their minds about having Benioff and Weiss doing Star Wars. Because you may already be aware that they've had some trouble keeping creators of Star Wars content anyway. But they definitely should stick to their guns. Now, I think it is entirely possible that Rian Johnson's trilogy will come out in between Benioff and Weiss's trilogy, kind of like what they're doing now with the saga films and the spin-off films. Now, to be clear, the films made by Benioff and Weiss and by Rian Johnson will not be episode numbers, which I think will be nice to get something different. I like the idea of exploring parts of the timeline that we don't know anything about. And I like that idea because of the mystery of those time periods. And it's a wide open field for them to come up with new ideas. But also I like the fact that it's not going to be dealing, at least I hope not, with people that we know. So that we can really start to build a connection with new characters. And instead of them telling the backstory of every character in Star Wars, it'd be nice to get something a little bit new. People we don't know. Places we don't know. Events we don't know. That I really find fascinating. Now, I think it is still highly likely that Benioff and Weiss will have Rian Johnson direct their films. Now, as I said, StarWars.com claims these films are separate. But it would seem that Benioff and Weiss are going to need a director. It doesn't have to be Rian Johnson, but it looks like they're going to have to hire a director. And that we have no knowledge about so far. But that I'm very interested to find out. Now, could Benioff and Weiss direct these movies? Yeah. But as I said, they don't have a lot of experience directing. So it'll be interesting to see who they hire to direct and what further knowledge we get down the pipeline. So those are my thoughts. I do believe that these gentlemen should direct. Or not direct, but should be allowed to continue working on their Star Wars movies. I realize that a lot of people are disappointed with season 8 of Game of Thrones. But there were 7 seasons that everybody loved. And hopefully, I'm hoping a lot of the fans out there remember that, you know, one slip-up or one season that didn't make everybody happy does not in any way negate how good the other seasons were. But I hope Disney and Lucasfilm stick to their guns and keep these gentlemen on board for these projects. So those are my thoughts, and that's a little bit of information and news. I will definitely keep you informed as more information comes along. I also like the fact that these films are going to be coming out in December. I think there was a mistake with the release of Solo being in May. And I'm glad that these films are going to be more geared for Christmas release. And here's hoping everything turns out well. So my name is Brendan Moore. Thank you so much for tuning in to Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you.